Hey, everybody, welcome to Real Life Sci-Fi. I'm your host, Willie. We got no Wade tonight. He's out busy. I know it's rare, but the show must go on. If you want to support us, you can find us at reallifescifi.show. It's got all of our links. If you're not already following everything, please do. We kind of are in the need you to click the buttons right now mode. If you're new to the show is normally a one believer, one skeptic, and a guest. The skeptic is out tonight, which means you're getting a bunch of belief coming to the show. He's been on before. He is the host of High Vibe Finds, a conscious podcast. He's also a high vibe music artist. You can find out what that is when we look him up once we find out who it is. Welcome back to the show. It's Trill.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
Good to see you. We've been friends a while, and it's cool to keep running into you.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, not too far off are the neighborhoods here. Pretty much I'm in Los Feliz or Toluca Lake every other day.
Tell us a little bit about your show and your music.
Well, I mean, the music is more like conscious-based music. I found that years ago when I used to write like pop rock type songs that were more angst driven, I found that it kind of affected me after a while. I mean, you get an emotional charge from it, but it does sort of did affect my well-being. So as I went through kind of this medical challenge over my life, I decided to look more closely at the lyrics and try to make them more empowering and inspiring. So that was the biggest change, is the lyrics, and how everything I wrote was something meant to see the positive instead of the negative. You know, we can all get caught up in just like, in a weird way, like the commiserating and just the negative cycles or the longing. So I decided to sort of celebrate that other side of the coin, which is more, once you feel empowered and inspired and more connected with nature and high vibes, you know, it's a whole other level. So that's basically what it is. I use different kind of, guitars, sometimes it's keyboards. That's more of the music sounds that I go for. But the podcast, High Vibe Finds, currently it's sort of reacting to Reddit stories and trying to look for the conscious angle, like what would be advice that isn't just reactionary, but more a way to be kind to yourself and others, and what is more conscious advice. I'm going to be changing it up a little bit moving forward once I get back from this fun trip to San Francisco, which I'm taking at the end of the month. So when I come back, it might be slightly different, tweaked a little, but that's basically it.
That's great. You know, I've been a guest on his show before, and it was a lot of fun, and I had a good time doing it. And I like focusing on the good stuff, and it's cool to, react to stories in that way. And then also, the last time he was on, he had a great story. If you haven't heard that yet, go find the last time Trill was on our show. I think that we have a big power in the things that we say and the way that we feel. So I love everything that you're doing, and I love supporting you. Go follow him and all of his things, and find out what it's all about. I know that a lot of our fans are playing in that realm too.
Yeah, I think it's just part of our evolution. Now, once you just become a little more aware, you start getting interested in other topics and start exploring how the inner world creates the outer reality for us. And that's a big thing for sure. That's basically, words have a lot of power. And so the biggest thing I say is, there's so much noise out there. If you can just take a moment, take a breath, and reconnect with yourself, with nature, it's like so distressing in a good way, getting rid of all the stress and strain. And then you can sort of hit the reset button. That's kind of my journey. And it's given me a new appreciation for everything in life. I love exploring. I love going to different cities. I love doing a lot of different hikes of all terrains, but I do have a preference for forests. I do love tall trees.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Yeah.
I will say, I feel like the jumping into the positive realm, I always used to say that, like, I feel like our existence and consciousness are kind of like, could be compared to a radio dial. You're tuning into different frequencies of existence. But now I'm after really jumping more into having this power, you're more like the disc jockey of your own radio show, because you're not just
Yeah.
picking up signals, like you can control your show.
Well, totally. Yeah, I love that. That's a really good reference. Yeah, because we create the vibration, and then we can change the songs anytime we want. And I always say that. I always say, like, there's two sides to this on the positive side of the equation, which is exhilaration and bliss. So sometimes, you're in a blissful, calm, peaceful, serene state. And that's a great way to sort of kind of tune out all the noise. But on the other side of it, sometimes you want to be charged up. You want to be excited and fired up for what you're doing. So it's more like that big heroic anthem. You can be the hero and you can also be the sleeping Zen monk, whatever it takes.
I know. I feel like my life is not going to be what it's supposed to be till I jump out of a plane. But
Listen, I've done it.
something that I would never ever do, even to survive. I don't think I could do it. I'm going like, well, fuck, maybe I'm supposed to do that
Look, I've
to
done that
like,
before. And I will tell you that the craziest thing is the jump was, I did it first tandem. That's how you're supposed to do it, where there's a guy attached to you on the back. And you're the one who's looking forward, and they step you to the edge of the plane. They're like, okay, so whenever you're ready, 3, 2, 1, go. And you're like, I guess it's me. I'm jumping. And you just jump out there. And I will say that the first, it's only about a minute or two that you're free falling. And then you pull the harness and then you slowly glide down for 15 to 20 minutes. And once I got to the bottom, I thought the best part was that first minute or two, because you just know as soon as you step off there, you are just falling and you're feeling the wind and you're like, I almost wish that could have been way longer, because once you pull the chute, all the weight of it's like pulling up against your chest and you're
yeah,
like slowly coming. I mean, that's the part where everyone's relieved because like, okay, now we should be fine.
can breathe
But
normal.
yeah, but I love that first step off. I know these things can be scary, but I generally feel the most excited when you take that first step.
We'll see. We'll see. Oh my
I did
gosh.
it. I did it
I feel
outside
like I would have,
Vegas.
I feel
Oh,
like I'd
sorry,
have a
what?
panic attack and a heart attack. Oh my God. Maybe not anymore though. I mean, I'm working on, I don't know. We'll see. Oh my gosh. What am
I
I talking
recommend it.
about?
I do recommend it. I did it first in Vegas, like outside of Vegas. Not because I wanted to do this in Vegas. It was just something I saw an advertisement for one time. My then girlfriend was with me and I said, "Hey, you want to do this?" And she goes, "No, I don't want to do this." I go, "I kind of want to do this." She goes, "All right, well, let's go over there and you can do it." And I just went up there by myself. Well, not just by myself.
Wow.
There's a plane of 3 or 4 people and that's it. And by the way, the door, there is a door, but there's cracks around it purposely. And so you can feel the air coming in the whole time. And then
Yeah.
they're like, okay, here we go. I was the first one in the group. They clicked the door open and, it's sort of like that surreal thing where you're like, well, I can't not go,
Yeah.
like I paid for this. I'm going to show. Yeah, I do think it is one of those things where you feel really amazed after and kind of like excited that you did do it. It probably takes a lot more nerve to get up to it. It's sort of like when you're standing at a cliff's edge, even if you're only 10 feet above the water, and you're just like, okay, I'm going to jump off. Okay. And you kind of psych yourself up. But once you just do it and jump and get in there, you probably want to do it 10 more times while you're there, just because you've broken the ice. It's that first jump. I think that's the hardest.
My friend almost pushed me off a cliff once. He's like, Cliff, I was like, I can't do this. I would never in my life do this. He's like, what if I pushed you? If I push you, you would thank me. And I was like, I would probably die. I'm not the best at being in water or holding my breath before being in water slides. I'd hold my breath too hard, trying to be ready for the water, and then I'd always mess it up and breathe in water.
How high was the cliff?
I think it was like 30 feet.
I mean, that's pretty high. Yeah,
Oh,
that's pretty
oh my
high.
gosh. Oh my gosh.
I mean, if you don't land right, even though it's water, you could get hurt if you just,
Yeah.
jump in straight. So I don't
I
know if he
always
pushed you,
had the video camera. I'm like, I'll tape you guys. I don't need to do this.
but they all did it. They all jumped off a 30-foot
Oh
cliff.
yeah. Yeah, all the time.
I mean, I used to
Um,
do that at a place in Santa Barbara, north of Santa Barbara. There's this like, this cliff that as you keep going higher up, because you can climb up, someone like built in little steps like into the rock. As you go higher up, it curves inward. So you have to jump further outward in order to clear
yeah.
the cliff to get to the water. I went almost all the way to the top because the very top was very like little sketch at the time. But I did go up. I don't even know how high that was. I don't know what's a safe, height to jump from. It could have been 40 or 50 feet, but maybe I'm crazy and it was only 30 feet. I don't know.
Boy, oh boy.
Do you have a
Oh,
fear of height?
my whole life, that's weird because most of this was like up through my 20s, 30s. I've had a fear of dying. And so anything that I could die from was there. So I did have a fear of heights, but I feel like I'm okay. I've been, you know, when I started roofing houses in Nebraska, my buddy was like, you never have to go on a roof. And I'm like, okay, great. I just had to bring the materials to them and stuff. First thing I had to do was carry a 90-pound bundle of shingles up a ladder 3 stories. every
Wow.
step just shaking. And I pretty much just had to, I don't want to say get over it, but I just had to get over it. You know?
But you got over it. You were able to do the job.
Yeah, yeah. I was pretty good on a roof. And I mean, I was there for 3 months.
This
And
is
I
the
was
thing,
on the
right?
roof the whole time. I don't know why he said I wasn't going to be on the roof. I think
Oh
it might have been
man.
that psych out thing, just to get me to
Yeah,
go out
that's
there.
right. You see it. I see it all the time now in like in movie and TV. They say like, when the bone's broken, like, okay, we're gonna reset it on three, and they go one, and then they
Yeah.
set it on two, and like, you
I
said three.
swear,
Like,
hardest
yeah.
job I ever did in my life, $6 an hour. I still feel, I'm still offended by it. Like it
You mean
should have
that
been.
job?
Yeah.
Wow. But no, I am a fan of just like facing fears and, like not like going out of your way, but if something's sort of in your peripheral or it's like, hey, you want to go do this thing and you're like, I'm a little hesitant about that, but you know what? Maybe I should just consider it because I'm hesitant. Anyway, that's all I want to say
Yeah.
about that. But congrats on doing
Yeah.
it because I do think that's cool.
Yeah. Same. It's all focus. It's all focus.
Yeah.
So let's jump into the wow scale. Wow scale. The
Sure.
WOW scale stands for Wade or Willie. I'm going to ask you some questions. At the end, I'll give you a grade of how you did. If you're more of a grade, a score. If you're more of a closer to a 1 or 0, you're closer to a Wade. If you're more of a 5, you're closer to a Willie. So let's see what you end up at. Are you ready to be Wade on the WOW scale?
Yeah. I'm ready to go.
All right, first question. Three-parter. Do you believe in aliens? If so, have they visited Earth? If so, have they visited Earth in the last 300 years?
Oh yeah. 100% on all of those. Yes.
Word. And the next question, do you believe that disclosure will happen in your lifetime? Also, do you count this disclosure that happened is disclosure?
So I do believe disclosure will happen, but I do believe that our government and many governments across the world are highly controlling the information that they do put out there. So there's a lot of disinformation that's mixed in with it, I think. And then also whatever they're trying to show you, I don't think, for example, they would ever admit, that if they detect a UFO, UAP hovering above a military installation while they're trying to do a test that with missiles that they can easily be disabled. I don't think they'd ever want to admit that, even though we've heard that for, a decade now. So yeah, I
Yeah.
don't think to answer your question, I don't think that the government will be the one who fully discloses things. I think at some point there may be contact that is undeniable in some way. That's my belief, but
Yeah.
we'll see.
I'm with
Yeah.
you. I agree with that. I feel like it's not going to be them doing it, but it's going to be disclosed. I feel like what's happening now is a huge, huge distraction, and it really bothers me. I'm so offended by it.
Yeah, I mean, definitely a lot of the stuff they put out. Like, is your opinion that some of it is legit and some of it is just like either not real or just very, very,
I
shaved
haven't,
down? And
yeah, I haven't dove deep into it yet because it's going to be a big undertaking because I want to dive deep. But my issue is I feel like they're showing us things that aren't too crazy, but just letting us, get our whistle wet to just kind of be like, they did it. They disclosed the UFOs just like Trump said. And
right,
they aren't revealing things that are so crazy that proves that there's anything else out there. And so anytime they have these congressional hearings, everything that is being disclosed was still approved. You can't just come out and say shit. And so, it's kind of like the
yeah,
Tic Tac is the best example. The pilots, these trained Air Force pilots, Navy pilots, they're saying these Tic Tacs are doing things that we cannot do.
yeah,
But they don't show you videos of that. They have video
yeah,
of it stopping and taking off. They don't show you that. So, oh, here's an orb. It's still they're still releasing stuff like, oh, hey, when we went to the moon, they were looking at these objects in the sky or lights in the sky. And still a skeptic could be like, okay, this is, you're seeing more stars, more planets, it could be reflective junk off the sun. Things can still be explained. So this disclosure is straight up distraction. There's too many things to distract from. Nobody got in trouble for anything in the past 2 years since Epstein, since Israel. These things are what we should be
yeah,
talking about.
yeah. That's what's a weird thing. There's so many things going on in the world and even just in this country with some of what this government's doing that in a weird way, how is disclosure of alien life being pushed to the sidelines or not the most important thing
Yeah.
because it would change everything. Yet we're like, now there's a war and there's so many things that are happening. That's where I'm just like, what's going on? Because I always used to say, hey, if they came out and said, this is what's going on, there's different kinds of alien life, they have different kinds of craft, they've been visiting forever, they influenced past civilizations, that would be the biggest story ever. I don't even know how sort of that's an afterthought right now to a lot of people.
Yeah. They're going to have to show up and tell us they're here.
Yeah. By the
What
way,
about,
the movie. What do you think of that movie that's coming out by Spielberg, The Disclosure Day? Is that related specifically to this? Do you think? Is it part of the plan to kind of ease us into it or something?
it kind of has to be, when he did Close Encounters of the Third Kind,
Yeah.
the information that he got about UFOs was J. Allen Hynek, who ran Project Blue Book. Now,
Oh,
at the end of Project Blue Book, he was like, "Oh, you know what? Nothing to see here." And as soon as that project ended, he started his own company that was looking for life in the universe. And so, to me, that says, "Hey, my job, I'm supposed to say this doesn't exist, but I've
yeah.
seen so much shit that I'm going to go explore for this stuff on my own." And so I
Yeah.
like Close Encounters of the Third Kind because it really lays out, it still holds up. It lays out the way we treat UFOs. Oh, pilot saw something weird. Not going to report it. There's weird fucking lights and weird shit happening to people. That's their story. No one else needs to hear it. And so I'm excited for this because I'm sure that he's going to include stuff of stories that should be in the public eye that aren't.
Yeah.
But I just feel like there has to be somebody saying what he can and can't put in his movie. That's what I think.
I saw something where when he did ET, he was invited to the White House, and Ronald Reagan kind of said in front of everybody, the way you depicted some of these aliens is exactly how a lot of these people in this room believe they are. And he said it
Yeah.
without making a joke. And, everybody, I guess Spielberg took it to mean like, I think he's basically telling me, yeah, this is real. And then, what Ronald Reagan used to believe as well, he used to believe that if aliens were to arrive and pose any threat in any way in anyone's mind, it would immediately unite everyone on the planet. That was his belief. He believed that everyone would set aside their differences and go, okay, we got to all bond together as a human race. I don't know. That was
Yeah.
interesting.
He said that a lot. I'm torn on it because it's kind of like I feel like he was saying that to unite us to push the Star Wars defense program, which was really getting nukes in space.
Yeah,
And also, though, I do believe that Gorbachev and him were going to try to disclose, but I feel like they were stopped
that's a possibility for sure.
because they're not in charge. you know,
Exactly. No, I mean, I think this goes back to the 40s. I think like that during World War II, a lot of the, what do they call those? Foo Fighters were
Foo Fighters.
seen.
Yeah.
And then Roswell, if you believe in Roswell, which I do, I think there's a lot of evidence of that. A ship crashed in the desert there. Some bodies may have been recovered, and some material that's exotic and different was there and present. So if that's what happened, then ever since then, there's been an awareness for sure, 100% by the government that they're out there, and probably every world government knows about it. It's just a question of like, is it really, are they just trying to protect the human psyche from truth? Like, what does it do to religions? Like
Yeah.
that kind of question.
What I've been saying lately is what does it do to science? Because let's say aliens showed up, it's going to make me say, well, not me, but other people, how come all of these smart scientists, astronauts, physicists, all you people that have the ability to use these tools couldn't find aliens either? You couldn't prove that they were here and they're here. So the religion of science is kind of going to be questioned too.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, it's just, I'm sure a lot of them would just say, we were looking in one field and we were not brought into it. I mean, for example, that show, The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch, that
Yeah.
guy, Travis Taylor, I know he believes in Tesla. He had some show on the History Channel where he did an experiment to prove how the Tesla coil could have worked. So he's already open to these types of things. But when he was invited onto Skinwalker Ranch, he was a skeptic. He was a Wade. He came on going, so I've heard all these things that are happening here. I don't know what the hell's happening. All right, just show me what you got. And they're just showing him one thing after another until he starts seeing UAPs almost every episode. They're always there. There's a strange phenomenon that's there. It's been there for a long time. So someone like him becomes much more open because you can't deny it at that point. But maybe he was only for a lot of his career looking in one specific
Yeah.
area. Until you make him aware, he's immediately like, I see it all the time. There's a phenomenon. There's an anomaly above the ranch, however many hundreds of feet, 2,000 feet or something. If you have you seen that show?
I haven't, but I know a lot about Skinwalker Ranch, and I've seen a lot of the stuff from it.
What they're doing is fascinating because they're doing legit scientific experiments where they're measuring, they're shooting rockets up, they're detecting this sort of like energy anomaly that's between 300 and 2,000 feet above this one section of the
Yeah,
ranch. They're constantly measuring it. And they bring on these drone experts who do major like drone squad parades in wherever, major cities. And they bring them on there immediately. Oh, the batteries are all drained. Or, oh, they're like, we can't control
yeah.
them. They're like major stuff that is kind of undeniable again, if it's all real and it's not being, fictionalized, it's fascinating.
What about Bigfoot? You believe in Bigfoot?
Yes, I do think that that's real. Yeah,
Awesome. I always appreciate a Bigfoot believer. Ghosts. You
I
believe in
do.
ghosts?
That's the only one I'm not 100% sure about. I believe in entities. I don't know if you call them ghosts. I'm not sure what that is. So that's a question mark for me.
I don't necessarily believe in the old tradition of ghosts. I believe that there's energy. I think that there's something there. Maybe our consciousness can be detected or interact with things. I would say you're more of a yes because of that.
Sure. Okay, you could
Because
throw me as a yes. Yeah, I'm not
right,
sure
and
what
I
it
say that
is.
because I don't think that when you die, you're out here trying to tie up loose ends. I'm a ghost. I'm mad. I was always mad. I'm gonna haunt this
Yeah.
place. But there's something there.
Yeah, there's echoes perhaps and I think
Energy
maybe
echoes, life echoes,
yeah,
other
sure.
beings that are in another dimension that we can't perceive and we'll never
That I
know what
definitely
the hell.
accept. Yeah, okay, so we can say a yes there.
Not that I'm trying to press you. I'm just going like I know that it's easier to
Yeah.
define it if I elaborate.
Yeah.
What about 9/11? Was that an inside job?
Yeah, no, we talked about this last time. All I could say is my dad used to work in one of the twin towers on the 102nd floor, and I remember going there as a kid, up and down, and they would talk about how they're not going to fall in any way because they're fireproofed and whatever proof. When I saw that, I was literally shocked because of the way I was raised and everything I knew. When I saw it fall straight down, I was like, that's not possible. That is not possible. So to this day, that doesn't make any sense to me from a physics point of view. When you say inside job, what I mean is I don't think they fell based on planes alone. So I do think there's some other explanation, controlled demolition. I'm not sure, but who did it? That's the question. I have no idea about that.
Yeah, I know. And these are things that we will never know. But I'm on that side where it's like I know that the official story is not what happened.
That's what I believe for sure. I think a lot of official stories that we've been seeing recently, JFK, all that stuff, not what happened.
I can't think of an official story that is this what happened. I'm for real. I'm going like
Yeah, yeah,
I
I
don't
agree with
know.
you. There's so much of
Every
this, like,
single war has a false flag
yeah,
to
something.
and every single story is skewed by the person trying to take advantage or skew the minds of the people that not that we can say no to anything, you know.
Yeah,
Let's say we were in a war and we all agreed that we shouldn't be in it. Protesting can get you kicked out of school right now. So
yeah.
I don't
It's a
like anything
dangerous
right
time.
now.
It's a very interesting time, somewhat dangerous. Yeah.
I
Well,
carry a passport on me because I'm a little brown. I'm like,
yeah, makes sense. It's not fair, but it makes sense. It's just my wife is Filipina and she doesn't carry a passport on her, but maybe she should, unless she does. I don't know. I may have to ask her,
I
but
got that
maybe she
the
should.
passport card because so I don't have my official passport, but the passport card works as a government ID.
It's not a bad idea at this point, just because you never know. I mean, a lot of crazy things that are happening.
All right, let's get to the topic here. Tonight on Real Life Sci-Fi, the Nazca Mummies. We're doing an update. These mummies dated back to about 1,800 years. They were found in 2015. Talked about this before. They've been called a hoax, but there's new information and it's showing us that these might be more than meets the eye. Let's get into some of the updates on these tonight on Real Life Sci-Fi.
Yeah, first of all, I find this whole topic super fascinating because I've always been fascinated by the Nazca lines. I don't remember when I first became aware of them, probably on the History Channel, like, 15 or 20 years ago or something.
Yeah.
But I mean, the fact that you can see them really only by air, which again, there's like 800 of these lines that stretch for miles, hundreds of square miles, and they can only really be seen by the air. It means that they either had hot air balloons that we didn't know about. And in some documentary I saw, they were trying to see could the people in that time frame have created a hot air balloon using animal skins and whatever. I saw them trying to do demonstrations, and
Yeah.
yeah, maybe they could have, but that doesn't explain the precision. Now you're
I
talking about
know.
something else.
And here's
UFO.
us trying to say, well, they could have had dumb things back during dumb times, and we're
Like
not
what?
accepting that they could be smarter than that. Like
Mm-hmm.
you hear about the Vimanas, Ancient Aliens always points this out, but there are books that talk about these flying machines.
Yeah,
And why do all of the ancient civilizations, how do they find pyramids? What the fuck are pyramids? Like we haven't figured them out. We don't know how they built them, and every ancient civilization has them. I believe that there was just another technology that was
yeah.
lost to time. Whatever that technology is, they were probably flying. I don't think that you can't see them from space. I don't think these are like, hey, you would come visit the planets flying in space. I think that sure, they could be marking underground waterways, which they are, but that could be just energy flow too. I will say this. I don't want to go off too hard on the Nazca lines. I think they're fascinating too.
Yeah,
If you're at all fascinated by that, you have to understand that there are parts of the Nazca lines where these lines go straight for hundreds of miles, and there are some what looks like mountains that were shaved off to match the lines too. So
really. Wow.
there's crazy technology in that whole area.
Wow. Yeah, I did know what you're talking about with the marking the underground wells. There's those structures with something I forgot what they're called. But yeah, that may be the logical explanation to try and like match, like you said, energy lines. It could also be that underwater wells and everything. But I guess the real question is the mummies, the tridactyl mummies, are they thought to be around that same time? Because I know there's a big range of like 1,000 years from the first one to the oldest one. But are they thought to have existed around that same time where the lines were made, when the lines were made?
Carbon dating is so weird. How much it can skew can be huge, and you can get a really bad reading from
Oh
actually
yeah.
dating a wrong uh, carbon on top of a different carbon. It's like you have to find living matter, and living matter can sit on top of living matter. So for me, the years, no, I'm torn
I do
because
I do believe that the Nazca people, or at least the people who built the Nazca lines and these mummies, predate the Inca. I think there was some proof that proved that the Inca came later. And again,
yeah,
there's questions about like some of the Inca buildings. Like, did they come to a place there? Some of the walls are built a certain way, and then above them are a totally different kind of wall technology. So it implies a civilization was there before, which I always believe about the Egyptians when it comes to the pyramids, that pyramids were there, the Egyptians found it and then just decorated it. They didn't like build them because it predated them perhaps by thousands of years. Maybe they were 12,000 years old.
yeah.
Egyptians founded in 5,000 or
There's
4,500 years.
definitely, especially like the diorite statues,
Yeah.
which is like the hardest stone on earth,
Yeah.
that you can clearly see some of the statues were carved nicely and then have carvings on the bottom that don't match the technology or the previous carvings. And they're like, no, this is the same time period. So we're definitely wrong in a lot of that stuff. And so I don't know. These mummies are weird because the official story is that they are hoaxed. They are conglomerates of human and animal parts put together. That's the official
I heard
story.
that. Yeah.
Now, when these guys came out, I don't know if this was a good thing or a bad thing. They came out and said, we've got alien mummies, and it put focus and attention on them, and people have tried to steal them. One of the guys who was Jaime, I don't know his last name, I forget, I can't think of it, Musan, I don't know. A lot of people say that he puts out fascinating information and that like he can't be trusted. And I'm just going like, I'm happy that he's just announcing things because I feel like when you announce something like that, people have to turn their heads and look instead of
Yeah.
it just being lost into the stories that nobody believes in.
Yeah. I mean, I watched an interesting documentary to prepare for this episode. One of them was a guy named Jesse Michaels. He's on YouTube. And he actually went down to Peru to interview some of the scientists who are investigating the mummies. he got to see three of the M type mummies, which are the bigger ones that are like 3 to 4 feet big or tall. He really got to examine them up close. Montserrat, Sebastian, and Santiago. That's the names of the three. It turns out that Montserrat may actually have been pregnant with another tridactyl human. This is
Yeah.
according to the scans they did, the sonar scans. First of all, that's super fascinating as it is, because how would you fake something where it actually has organs and bones? I mean, that's what they're showing in these sonar scans or CAT scans. And, the evidence
And they
of,
would have been
yeah,
hoaxed back then. So the
yeah,
technology
right.
to create these fake things back then is probably more impossible than whatever the hell these things are. Sure, could they just be some humans that had some different chromosomes messed up? The answer is no, because they're testing for that stuff. It's not
Yeah,
just, yeah, the three that you mentioned, these things have 3 fingers, 3 toes, their
yeah,
eyes are higher than they should be. They're bigger. Their heads are bigger. Their heads are elongated. One of them's like a baby that they think could be about 2 years old. Head binding is something that happens where there are ancient civilizations that would bind their babies' heads to grow them bigger to try to gain more brain
yeah,
matter. And some people are like, well, how did they come up with that? Maybe they saw that and they were inspired by that. Maybe they
yeah.
knew that you could actually increase your brain. But this baby is only 2, maybe 3, and they wouldn't have done that from a newborn.
Yeah, that's called a cranial deformation or
Yeah.
skull elongation, and they usually denoted nobility. Also, for like a priestly class, sometimes they did it for that, or like you said, it's an attempt to imitate what the gods look like in their minds. And I guess these mummies are sort of similar to that, even though I don't know if I see quite the same slope on the head that goes as far back as the one in Egypt or wherever. But,
I will say
sorry, go ahead.
this real quick.
Yeah.
When you look at these mummies, they look weird. They look fake.
Oh, yeah.
They are covered
Yeah.
in diatomaceous earth, which they're not rubbing off because it preserved them so well.
It
And
dried them
they're
out.
just
Yeah.
shrunken, dried out mummies. And so what they have been doing ever since 2015 is trying to get credible scientists to scan,
Yeah.
do DNA tests. They're trying to throw science at it. The problem is there aren't too many scientists that can come out and say, hey, this is a hybrid. This is an alien. There's some weird DNA in here without losing all of their credibility, even if the
Totally true.
science proves it. It's just like Close
Yeah.
Encounters, where it's like, are you going to be the person that says this? Because your university is going to cut off all your funding
Isn't that
because we can't
horrible? Yeah. I
have
mean,
the alien guy working on our Stanford thing or whatever.
hey, that maybe when there's a little more disclosure, that it'll be a little more open-minded group out there. But obviously, that's pretty sad because there is some evidence here that's been proven pretty intriguing here. I mean, first of all, the evidence before these are that the tridactyls have been depicted in cave art, on some of the fabrics,
Yes.
petroglyphs. It's all been out there already. So it's not like this is out of nowhere. They even have, I know there's one that looks like one of the Nazca lines that looks like an astronaut. And I think he may or may not have like an indication of 3 fingers. I don't know. But bottom line is there is evidence of this past. You just said something that kind of triggered a thought. Since the diatomaceous dirt is supposed to dry them out, is it possible they maybe were a lot bigger and they just sort of shrunk over time? Because we, as we get older, we sort of shrink again. I just wonder if that caused that, or is that maybe not
Yeah,
that
for
small?
sure. That's a good question to ask because would that shrink bone? Bone is filled with water too, and
Yeah.
like I do think that the bones do shrink a little bit. I mean, I feel like I don't know if as you get older you shrink because the space in between your bones is shrinking. Like I lost a half an inch, and I'm not happy about it.
But I gained it where
Um,
it counts.
but I
Yeah.
am happy that they are continuing. And listen, if they didn't come out and say these were aliens, I feel like they would have been snatched up already and it would have been all done.
The craziest thing is that I know that people say they were fake, but remember, there's three different classes. The ones that we're
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
about are the M class. I don't remember the other two classes, but the very one of those other two, especially maybe the smallest ones, most likely are fake because they're just supposed to be like if someone gets buried with a doll. Hey, here's a doll. If someone digs up a grave and they find a doll, they can be like, that's fake. It's like, well, think about why it might be put in there. It might be put in there and as sort of a replica of the person or some kind of a toy or something. So I don't think the small ones are quite meant. I don't know what those are, but the middle ones are sort of reptilian, and those are the ones that have the eggs in them. And it's who knows what that is. But obviously the M types are the most intriguing because they are the most humanoid and they're the biggest ones. I think there's like 20 or 30 of those. And I just believe that there's something here. There's got to be something here. After watching that documentary and doing a little more research, I mean, there are a couple of questions, like you mentioned, that will think that they could be, was it an alpaca head with some other like bones from chimps and piece together. I mean, the only way to do it is that guy Jaime says, feel free to test it. Come on down if you're a
Yeah,
DNA
I
guy
love it.
and test it. Yeah, that's a guy who's like not afraid. I mean, if you're afraid, you control the narrative. You say, we did this test. Here's our official findings, but nobody can, double check our work. So I like that attitude. And I think that people like him and this guy whose documentary I watched, Jesse Michaels, he also said, hey, if any scientist wants to go down there, I'll pay for your flight down there and pay for your stay. Because you're right, you need credible scientists to do this, and they're afraid to do this because look what happened to Graham Hancock for him trying to say that the history has been off and that there could be an ancient civilization that predated everything. Even though the evidence is pretty much staring you in the face,
Yeah.
everyone wants to act like he's crazy or he's wrong definitively.
And
You
he's
know.
just a journalist. He's just pointing out findings. And I love him. I think he's great.
Well, by the way, that's another thing. I'm not saying he discovered this. I don't think he did, but he was one of the people who popularized Gobekli Tepe. And
Yeah.
apparently that took 30 years of research for scientists to finally go, okay, this is real. It predates what we thought. And then they probably came up with I think they came up with a scenario where they're like, oh yeah, well, just the people who lived in the area, they were just
Yeah.
weekend warriors. They just on the weekend decided to build this thing.
And the
Sure.
scan, the underground scans just tell a different story. And I like the thing that you brought up because this is always the truth too, is that like a lot of ancient sites were built on top of ancient sites. And so, yes, you can see, you don't know if they just didn't know how to build the way that they used to build, or if that knowledge was slowly lost, or I think that I don't know, I'm into a lot of fun ideas, and one idea is that the sun has a cycle and that we are affected by the energy that's released from the sun. So
Hmm,
humans actually have more, I would say, abilities based on the sun's cycle. And
that's interesting.
that when I don't know, just there's so much energy that comes from the sun that's not just visible light, and they
Yeah.
somebody recently I saw they were growing plants underground without visible sunlight. They had copper tubing that would go underground that would harness these long wavelengths of sun energy,
Wow.
and just kind of proving that the visible sunlight isn't what feeds plants. It's this other type of wavelength coming from the sun. And it's just like, I thought
Really?
that was very interesting. I wish I could speak better on it, but
That is interesting. Yeah, I mean that's a very fascinating point. I'm absolutely convinced that prior civilizations had access to a technology we don't know what it is. Some kind of a something that could make things weightless, something that could carve. I mean, the pyramids, according to this one guy who was a machinist, said that there looks like cut marks that could only be made
yeah,
from diorite or a diamond or a laser. And so that just
the cut marks are
automatically
there. This is the
yeah,
problem with all of this stuff. If you look a little bit, you will find a lot.
yeah,
This is why I'm kind of into this idea that they're hiding I don't know who they is, but they're kind of
right.
keeping stuff from the general public. As soon as you say something's a hoax, 90% of the people will never look back at it again. They
True.
already proved that was a hoax. And
Yeah.
it's this is why I'm glad we're doing this topic again, because they're finding more scientific proof that these anomalous things are real, that these aren't some meat puppets that were put together, And
Yeah.
so some of the crazy things about the ones you mentioned earlier, I forget the names, the original
Montserrat, Santiago,
yeah,
Sebastian.
they
Yeah.
have pieces of metal put on them.
Right.
And these
Right.
these things they think were fixing severe trauma. These implants, square pieces of metal. They're saying that they use osmium, which is a rare metal, and you need to like mine aluminum ore to get osmium. It's like just
Yeah. Super
getting
rare.
that metal alone only comes from having high intelligence and technology.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And I think, I mean, I heard something about how it could have maybe channeled electrical signals in some way. Like it could have helped them communicate, or like you were saying, it repaired a damage or something. I don't know. I'm not sure what it is, but yeah, there at least a couple of them, maybe all of
Yeah,
them,
two of
have
them.
that metal around
At
them, right?
least
It's
two of
just
them got a little metal patch on the back of their neck. And
yeah,
what they're saying is that these things, the bone grew around it, so you can't just put metal on bone. When you
yeah,
do that, your bone rejects a lot of it a lot of times. It was almost like, and I'm paraphrasing, this is bad memory, but they're basically saying that these things were surgically implanted and
yeah.
the body took it and accepted it.
Wow.
So whatever they were doing was a little more advanced than what we do, because a lot of times when we do these things, your body will reject it. I've had 6 ACL reconstructions. They say when you use other people's parts, your body can reject it a lot of times.
Yeah, for sure.
And
Yeah,
I
for
feel like
sure.
that's happened to me a couple times because it tore too easy. So my body didn't treat it as the replacement ligament.
Really.
And that's just a ligament but at any rate, what are some other fascinating things that you found or
Well, I mean, look, just since there's no official skeptic, I'll just throw out the skeptical concept.
word?
There is some reason to doubt the original guy. His name is Adrian or something, or something like that. Adriano, the guy who found these in a cave. You know, I saw in this documentary how they say he's taking people to show him the cave. But once you kind of go in there, you realize there's no way that all of that could fit in there. You know, it reminds me of like the terracotta warriors of
Yeah.
China, where there's an underground chamber filled with those. And I think there are thousands of those. Some people suspect that there is an underground chamber that he doesn't want to reveal where it is right now, perhaps because it maybe connects to something else that maybe it's an underground UFO thing. I mean, there's a lot of speculation. Nobody knows for sure, but you do have to doubt because there's just no way that where he has taken people to a cave, that's the actual cave because they wouldn't fit in there. He tells a
Yeah.
good story. He seems legitimate, but I mean, I just suspect
And they also
yeah.
connect him to, a lot of countries have underground ancient artifact illegal dealings, like
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, I don't really
eh,
know, but and the other question mark about if you're going to play skeptic is, I think they did some tests, very very light tests, not the kind that we really want from a very skilled geneticist, but some DNA that they have tested said that like 70% of it seems to be human, 30% seems to be completely unknown, which I think is cool because that doesn't necessarily mean that it's not real. It's just a question of
we
that
haven't
other part.
identified it. The way that
Yes.
DNA works is here's what we've identified.
Yeah,
And so
exactly.
not identifying it doesn't mean alien. It doesn't mean it just means we don't know what it is. And so when
And
you
some
look at
people
those
are, yeah.
tests, they're just like, that's not what they're referring to when they say junk DNA. They're just like, it's so unidentifiable that nobody wants to claim identity for whatever it is, because you're going to have to find more of it.
You know, it's kind of like Bigfoot when they've found hairs. A lot of times they say this hair is whatever percent human, but there's a part of it that is an unknown hominid.
Yeah.
So that may be the point. Maybe it's some either hybrid or some kind of different, I don't know, mutation or something.
That's
So there,
that's what I want to do, the
yeah,
Bigfoot episode where they are finding DNA in the water, and it can be in hair also, of a species that it would be like Bigfoot. If he existed, they would find the DNA. These companies that are finding this stuff, they wouldn't exist if they said it was Bigfoot hair.
yeah, but that's terrible. I know how many times have you heard the story where they send it in for testing and they never hear back or something,
Yeah.
But there are no signs in these pterodactyls that there was any skull elongation techniques that we're using. They didn't cut the fingers off of like the other two. So these three are attached. They didn't elongate them. They just happen to be weirdly long. It is a mystery because this seems legitimate when you're looking at it objectively. But trying to imagine how they would move is a whole other question, right? How
Yeah.
would they walk around? What are they like? Are they actually much taller and they shrink to this size? I don't know. It's a fascinating mystery, but it's interesting to me that these things are all coming out within the last 20 or 30 years. But again, something that is interesting to point out is that apparently just in the last 10 years, there's been 5 different hominid species that we have determined have existed over time that we didn't know about. I remember
Yeah.
seeing a documentary on Netflix about this shorter human that could be around 4 feet tall or maybe shorter that lived, and they buried their dead inside these caves, and they would crawl all the way into caves and like bury the dead in this one chamber. But they were just like looking at these bones and they're like, whoa, we never knew about this species. This is a hominid species. They gave them a name and a classification. Never heard of them. That's only been discovered in the last 10 years. And there's 5+ of them. So this
And
could
that
easily
they're
be that.
called leprechaunis.
Are they? Because I
No,
don't know.
no, no. I don't know.
Oh, there is some names that kind of sound, comical. So that could very well be. It could be
I
like, yeah,
I will say the most fascinating thing about these mummies. Sure, there's definitely hoaxes in this artifact trade, underground
sure.
money making, rare things. Sure, this could be a rare genetic condition. The thing that might prove that it's not is the one that they think is pregnant or is pregnant,
Yeah.
right?
Montserrat. That's the one. Yeah.
And that if you have a genetic condition or mutation, it's almost impossible that your baby would have the exact same
Right.
genetic condition.
I like that. I would also add that the Peruvian government is constantly trying to confiscate the actual mummies, which
Yeah,
suggests that
yeah.
why would you do that if you thought they were fake?
Oh, I mean, they're gonna get them. It's kind of like
You're going
the,
to get eventually.
yeah,
I don't know, but that's one of those things where their interest in it, and they're trying. I think this one guy you mentioned earlier, Jaime, I think he's suing them for $300 million because of, I remember what, but it relates to something like this. So why would you put your money on the line, and why would this government try to constantly confiscate this? And if there's nothing to it, and if it's an obvious fake, they go do whatever you want.
if you are skeptical about this, I think that this is a good place to just look at what evidence is being presented by the people that support this, because they're doing their darndest to only put out science that is backed by science, you know?
Yeah, that's true.
So anybody hoaxing or anybody trying to debunk these things, they're not actually applying science to debunk. They're just pointing the finger at what they're seeing. And
Yeah,
so
that's a good
I
point.
would say
Yeah,
take a look at them, because I thought the first time I saw them, especially the small one, there's also this, they found another small, the one you're saying that might be a doll, whatever. There's another one found on the other side of the world, I forget what it's called, Atacama or something like that. This other tiny 6-inch, skeleton
really. Wow.
it's easy to just say these things are fake, but if you look at them, it would be hard today for someone with a lot of money to create
Yeah.
a fake miniature human with bones intact and organs intact. Not to say that it's not possible, but I just don't believe that that's what's happening.
Yeah. I mean, it is interesting. It's all happening around the time when disclosure is becoming the biggest hot topic, other than the craziness of this government. It's interesting that it's all kind of coming out right now. It's got to keep your eye on all these things, because I do think there's going to be a time where we are going to get a much bigger understanding of what our history was on this planet, what
Yeah.
other interventions there may have been from interdimensional, interstellar beings, perhaps, or even, like you said, maybe we as humans were somehow much more aware. Our minds that are part of our brains that are dormant were more active, and therefore we were able to do things. But I also think, like we said, that there's just different kinds of hominids that existed on this planet. And if these could have existed here, that could also mean that there is a Sasquatch that existed in the north and it grew big, these grew small for whatever reason. I mean, it's just like, how many new species are we discovering all the time that live mostly in the ocean, but also other places too? That's what's so fascinating about these kinds of topics, is that we both keep an open mind, and then we wait to see what science says. But you don't just shut the door immediately because of anything. I mean, I did hear about this years ago, and I didn't know it was connected to this story, where about these little dolls they found, and apparently the one guy was making them, and he was like, "Yeah, I knew of this discovery in 2015, and a couple of years later, I made these dolls to sort of sell them as replicas. I never claimed these were real."
Yeah.
That's what this guy was saying. He's like, "I was just selling it as a replica." That's like if I sell you something this big of the Eiffel Tower, and they go, "You told me this was the Eiffel Tower." No, it didn't. It's a replica of the Eiffel Tower. So yeah, the people who get ahead of this narrative fast and say hoax, 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 they're always going to be like you said, it gives a permission slip to skeptics to go, "Oh yeah, yeah, they proved that was a hoax," and then
Yeah.
they move on. But yeah, we all should keep an open mind because I do believe that the world is so much more magical than we can ever just imagine, really.
I'm into the idea that there could have been multiple alien races here making hybrids using all these hominids that were here. And,
Interesting.
when you look at finding a fossil, finding a mummy, finding anything that has survived for 100 years, it is like winning the lottery. Things do not survive time. And
That's
so
true.
when you do
Yeah.
find something that did exist, we basically tell you the whole story based on the shit we found. Oh, look at these pots. And a lot of times it's easy. Yeah, sure, pots. Food, you find grains of food and something like, oh, this came from the wheat. They were growing food, whatever. And so, yes, I know that there are people that study this. There's a science to it. But when you find something that doesn't fit, people aren't saying like, get that thing out of here. They're just like, well, it doesn't fit, so I can't put attention to it right now. I'm getting the only people doing this research are the people getting paid by someone who's trying to make money. Nobody's out there trying to figure out the history of the earth or humanity for fun. There is personal gain in everything that you find. And most of it is, hey, if we can prove this is Inca, we can sell it. If we can prove that this is this, we
Yeah.
can sell it.
That's too bad. That's too
Even the
bad.
museums, they're just money makers. They're not trying to like teach you anything. They're trying to make money from their collection that they paid for. I don't mean to make it sound so bleak, everybody that works in the process, they are all trying to find the story. They're trying to contribute to the creativity of humanity, not the people paying for it. And so the reason why I'm so into this is because here's some people that are going like, sure, they might be trying to make money, just like these credible institutions that are bullshit that,
Yeah.
fuck Smithsonian. At any rate, they're trying to uncover something, but I feel like they have a more rebel attitude, which is like, hey, we're trying to find out what really happened because,
Yeah.
yeah, that might make us some money, but like, they're trying to take away our shit because they don't even want us to deal with this. So I'm just like, let them rip.
Yeah.
Anything that's
Exactly.
in this realm, just I say follow it just to see who's trying to shut it up.
That's true. They always say who the enemies are of this says a lot about what you're trying to do. So yeah, we already discussed the Peruvian government itself. And of course, I think mainstream science in America is just going to shun it by just not being involved in it. If they send someone down, I don't think anyone will go down. That's the problem as of
Yeah.
right now. Yeah, but it's one of those things where there's always somebody who gets very interested in it, like let's say a Graham Hancock, and he won't let it go. And he just keeps going and going and going until Netflix gives him a deal and says, okay, let's hear your case. And then it becomes a big thing. It's like same with like Chariots of the Gods. He writes this book. Was it 70 million copies sold or something? Just like
Yeah.
people, there's something that rings true to people. It ignites other people's interest and passion, and then they get involved. And as long as there are those people out there, we have a chance at getting to the deeper truth. But also, part of me feels like part of this Earth life experience that we're all on as spirits in a human being meat suit. We are maybe never meant to know everything as a human.
Yeah.
I think the mysteries are
Maybe
meant
that's not
to.
the purpose. Yeah.
I mean, go try and figure it out for sure. It gives us something to strive towards, and I love that about it. But the experience is just trying to find our passions and trying to get to that deeper truth.
Yeah. Another thing that I want to add to my what sounds like complaining
Okay.
is that
Yeah.
our civilizations of now are built on civilizations that were destroying the rest of the world's information.
Yeah.
The Crusades, the Romans, their whole goal was to erase your history. The Library of Alexandria, that
Yeah.
didn't burn on accident.
Right.
When they uncover things like the Dead Sea Scrolls, here's some ancient people trying to hide shit from that same rule that's trying to erase what you believe in. I'm just so torn because we act like America was created to get away from all this other rule, and I'm like, no, that rule continued here. Just picture the popes clout that he has in America. Maybe that's not the best example, but like these old regimes, we built science on top of them, but we didn't go back and change anything that they fucked up.
That's
And
interesting.
I would say if you like here's my thing. What I'm getting into now is I believe that there are truths to the Bible. So which Bible am I going to go look up? The Ethiopian Bible, because theirs hasn't changed for thousands of years. Let's say the Bible, there's like missing books from it. And
Yeah. Yeah.
that's what Zechariah Sitchin, that's what some people are using, these books that were taken out. Theirs has got way more books that were not taken out. And so you're looking at a real history. It sucks that they're early Christians in Egypt, but before Constantine fucked it all up,
Yeah.
there's more of a history in that. And
There's mistranslations, there's purposeful, different interpretations, I
yeah,
believe. And yeah, but what people don't know about the history of Christianity as a religion is that there were hundreds of different sects that were practicing their version of it until Constantine, which was, I forgot what it was, 200 years later, maybe more, said,
yeah.
okay, let's get together, get everyone in a room. And basically, who won was whoever had the most money and power to say, this is real, that's not real.
Yeah.
And
I
so
mean, I
it's,
mean,
yeah,
picture, the Council of Nicaea back then, picture what's happening now. It is the
yeah,
same thing as news organizations telling you what the news is.
yeah.
It's like rich people telling you what the news is.
Yeah, exactly. And
And
if you look back to the earliest like Christian, whenever they talk about Jesus in the first three books, he seems more leaning toward, love your enemy, what you do to the least of me, you do to me, treat others a certain way, like as you want to be treated. But then when you see like some of the other influences of maybe John and definitely Paul's letters, it becomes a lot more of a different kind of thing. It's more like forget all
yeah.
that, just accept them in your heart and you're saved, and that whole thing. It's
And
like, yeah,
I've
it's
been
a lot of
trying to
different.
buy an Ethiopian Bible, but even the ones on Amazon have been edited too. And
Really.
so I'm just going like, I'm trying to find the right one to buy, but just for my collection of things, I feel like I'm closer to a Buddhist than a Christian, of course. But I mean, I say of course, but I'm just saying like, I'm trying to do research on ancient religions, but these things were already skewed and messed with. I don't know, when you look at ancient societies that were older than 2000 years, because 2000 years is like the cutoff for like, this is when we got smart, this is when the Bible, this is
Yeah.
when we say history started.
Right.
This is
Right.
according to the Christians who started this. And you look at all these ancient ones, they all have the same fucking technology cross continents, the way that they're building massive structures, and none of these
Yeah.
things are built using the tools that we say they had.
Oh my
Copper
God.
tools in Egypt, you can't
Come on.
carve any of those
No,
stones with copper, most of them.
I've seen some of the things where they take like a half a ton rock and they put it on top of like wooden reeds or whatever they said had. It wouldn't even move an inch. It's just ridiculous. It's a huge mystery because there is no logical explanation, and we couldn't even really build them today. They just weigh too much. And how do you design it with that precision? That's the fascinating thing. It's like they literally exist, and anyone who says that that doesn't matter, I almost from a spiritual point of view, not to be like disrespectful to religions, but I'd almost say, what is your answer for that? Like if there was a savior that came 2000 years ago, what were the pyramids before that? Like, how does that fit into this master plan? Why was that allowed to exist? And we don't even have an explanation for it. Like, to me, it's such a bigger mystery, and there's so much more that can't just be explained in any religious text. And like, but you did mention Vyamanas. Is that a religious? Is that a Hindu kind of thing?
Yeah,
The
yeah. I forget
Vamanas,
if I think it was the Mahabharata. I don't know how to say some of these things.
and it
It's
is
an old
religious,
ancient
right?
book. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So there you go. Maybe there is one that
It
has a
talked
big piece
about
of the truth.
flying machines. Yeah. And I'm going off on all these tangents because I appreciate that I am able to have these things put in front of me today.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm not doing my own research on it, but I like looking at and trying to support the people doing their research on this. And
Yeah.
so these things are fascinating to me because especially with a little bit of the release of the UAP, UFO stuff that's happening now, because I'm just going like, it's all on purpose what you get to choose to explore.
By the
but
way, oh, so go ahead. Please finish. Yeah.
I will say, I'm curious if there was this ancient history. Is there a way that I can connect to the universe and find the answers? I don't know. I think that
Sure.
that might be possible. I think when you
Yeah.
hear of people jumping into the flow of consciousness, you hear about people
Sure.
like Edgar Casey reading
Akashic records.
the Akashic records. That, like,
Yeah.
when you hear those concepts, those even relate to Moses reading, talking about the list, or talking about information, the book. Things don't translate well, and how do you explain abstract things to people? I think that we actually can go back and look for ourselves, just from some sort of remote viewing or some sort of time,
Sure.
and I think it's possible. And so I'm going, like, I love learning about this stuff because I need to know what I'm going to focus on when I leave my body to look around.
Oh yeah. I mean, Irish and I always talk about how, wow, once you die as a human, you probably just are immediately aware of this greater reality. And you're like, oh, that's instantly you're bombarded with all the secrets. You're like, oh, that is so cool. Wow, I never would have known that. But no, I do think there's a way through consciousness to access some of this information for sure. Edgar Casey, like what he did, he's not right about everything, but there's some fascinating proof that he did offer that there was no way for him to have known about it. For example, the way that the rivers used to flow the opposite direction in Egypt, they only found that out in like the late 90s or mid 90s, where they
Yeah.
did some sort of scans and they realized that tributaries prove that they once flowed the other way. That means the Nile wasn't approached the way we think of it today. And it also may have been further over closer to the pyramids, might have gone right up to them. These are interesting things. Also, that the Hall of Records, which are apparently information by ancient civilizations, Atlanteans, according to him, are buried beneath the right paw of the Sphinx. And at one point, as you know, they were like doing sonar readings and found this chamber. And then it was water. It was flooded. And then Zahi Hawass says, "Okay, we'll get in there." Then he goes, "There's nothing there," and he just
Yeah.
keeps people out. And there's a lot of information is being controlled all around the world. And I just wonder if it's just because if we knew what it was, we all would have access to something that would raise our consciousness and awareness. And when you're caught in the 3D mindset, you're thinking materialistically, you're thinking about control, and you don't want people to wake up because then they know they don't need you. And that's really where I think we're at. That's the battle of this whole
Yeah.
existence.
Totally
Yeah.
agree with you. That's a good place to end everything, especially since we went so off track. But I think it all relates, and it's all the
Yeah.
same idea of what to pay attention to in the next couple years. Like, where you put your
Yes.
attention definitely affects other people. Affects the universe. What you pay attention to definitely affects my
Yeah.
universe. What I pay attention to. So what am I going to pay attention to? Well,
Yeah.
Trill, it was great talking with you. Is there any closing thoughts you have on everything that we talked about?
Just stay open minded and open
Yeah.
hearted, because at any given point in life, there's moments where someone you might least expect can offer you some bit of knowledge or insight that can really blow your mind in a good way. I've had it happen to me many times where I'm skeptical of a person, maybe, and then you just give them a little bit of like dialogue and you go, oh my God, this person is really fascinating. My guard was up. And now if I just let it down a little bit, on the other side of the coin, you also have to be prepared that if someone's about to take you for a ride, you got to use your intuition to realize, okay, this is not that person I want to go down the path with. It's happened to me too. I've seen that too. But generally speaking, go in with an open mind and an open heart, because knowledge and just even wonderful experiences can come through anybody. So that's my main thought about this.
Love it. That's great. And hit us up with your socials again. Tell us where people can find everything that
It's
you do.
all at Cosmic Trill, Trill. So it's across all social media at Cosmic Trill.
Word. Great, man. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Thank you for our journey without a skeptic today. Tell me
So
what
much
you think
smoother.
about this thing. Yeah, I want to know what you think about these Nazca mummies, because I am just completely fascinated by them. Again, please support us, reallifescifi.show. We've got Patreon. We do have merch connected to that too. And we appreciate all of you. And remember, just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they're not after you.
Took a wrong turn at the light and drove deep into the dead of night. Started chasing fairy tales, turned upside down, epic fail. Started making desperate moves until you fell into the blue. You've gotta know when enough is more than enough, and too much is gonna overflow when your trust is betrayed by lust. Time to hit the road. It's the only way for your debt to be paid. It's the only way to escape the pain, to break away from sin and sorrow. Operation Clean Slate. Made a bad move at the time. All you can do is watch it crash and burn. Started pulling angels down, breaking out the blame. Total clown. Started selling big fat lies until you gazed into the bright blue sky. You've gotta know when enough is more than enough, and too much is gonna overflow when your trust is betrayed by lust. Time to hit the road. It's the only way for your debt to be paid. It's the only way to escape the pain, to break away from sin and sorrow. Operation Clean Slate. You've gotta know when enough is more than enough, and too much is gonna overflow